Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, for those of you who are new, this is basically like my weekend summary show, primarily taking place and talking about all of the action that's happened over the weekend. If there hasn't been a lot of action, sometimes I'll touch on a couple of news topics as well, but there's no edits, no music, no nothing. It's literally just me and my thoughts for about 20 to 30 minutes. In this one, I'm planning to keep this one quite brief, to be totally honest, because there was action, but I don't think there was a huge amount that everyone paid attention to, because we all know what we was looking forward to this weekend, but unfortunately didn't take place. But we got another 3 months to wait for that. Now, there was a card, there was a DAZN card on Thursday night, which was headlined by Jojo Diaz and what was his name? Perez. Who's the guy he fought? His name was Perez Campos. Jesus. Yeah, that's it. Jesus Perez Campos. Now, first and foremost, with this fight, what I will say, I can't say it was a bad decision that Perez got the decision, because he did a lot of work in that fight. But it was a very harsh decision on Jojo Diaz for him not to win. If you look at now I don't normally look at punch stats for anything, but if you look at the punch stats, they're quite telling. I can't remember the exact numbers, but Jojo Diaz threw about 300 punches less than Perez, but he landed like 100 and I think it was 120, 150 punches more. So he had like a connect percentage of like 40%, and Perez, I think, had a connect percentage of like 17, or between 17 and 20. So he was most certainly the busier guy, but it was one of those fights where if you look at it enough, you can see, a lot of Perez's shots is being blocked, rolled, probably not scoring, but he was, he had a high work rate. So I can understand if you kind of give him some of the rounds based on that. And it was one of those fights, it could have gone either way. If you give it a round to Perez, if you give it a round to Diaz, I can't say that the wrong person won the fight, but I do think that Diaz was hard done by. What he was definitely hard done by, which is now sort of leading to him feeling as if Golden Boy Promotions have got an agenda against him, because I think it was Lou Moretti was the judge, and he basically scored the fight 99-90, which basically means that he gave Jojo Diaz 1 round in the entire 10 rounder. I'm sorry, there's no, even if you think that Perez won the fight, cool, but 1 round to Diaz when he strongly won at least 4. And I'm saying there's 4 rounds that he clearly won. So I think that needs to be questioned. Even if you're looking at the work rate, I still think that one needs to be questioned. But that being said, Jojo Diaz didn't do himself any favors. He went and got a point deduction. Like, he ended up shoving the guy, he fell out the ring almost. Got a point deducted for that. And that ended up being, I think, a 10-8 round on most of the cards. I think one card may have given it as a 9-9. But, there's just certain things he didn't do well. Like I said, I still think he done enough to win, and I can understand why you maybe feel hard done by with that one scorecard, but ultimately he should have done better. And now it's time for him to properly reevaluate and decide what he's going to do moving forward. Now, with that was the only fight on that particular card where I recognized any of the names. I won't get into the undercard, but it's always a fun time when you see a Golden Boy Promotions card, to be fair. Next, Friday. Friday was sort of, I guess, the 2 big cards that came out. You had Adrian Curiel versus Sivenathi Nontshinga, the rematch. And on the undercard to that, you had Mauricio Lara. Basically, he's making his return. He hasn't fought in like 9 months. since the Lee Wood rematch. No idea why he hasn't been in the ring for that period of time. He should have been, to be honest. But yeah, he decided to take a break out. He's come back at 130, but he has said that he's still is possibly still looking to move back down to 126 to see what the landscape's like. Well, I mean, he might need to move back down, because I think he faced a guy called Daniel Lugo, who was, he's got a job. I can't remember what type of job it was, like a construction job. I think he's a part-time construction worker. But he said this is the first time he's had 2 months off from work to be able to like just dedicate to training, and he gave a great account of himself. In the fight itself, there was a couple of times he hurt Mauricio Lara. Lara looked a bit sluggish, he looked a bit just not so much disinterested, but everything just looked like it took extra effort. Now that could have been the extra 4 pounds, or maybe that could have been the lifestyle alteration that he had since winning the title off of Lee Wood back last year, February. But yeah, he was very lucky basically to get given a draw in this fight. I mean, there's an argument that he maybe could have nicked it, but more than likely the argument is that Daniel Lugo deserved the victory. So Lara got the draw, and he's agreed with Eddie Hearn. They both basically agreed in the ring to run it back immediately. So that should be happening in May. But if we talk about what is basically, I guess, the great tale of the week end to a degree, it has to be the Adrian Curio versus Sivenathi Nontshinga fight. You had Sivenathi, in the first few rounds, it looked like he was playing the totally wrong game plan. He stayed in the pocket, like on the chest of Adrian Curio. He was taking sort of like some quite big uppercuts. He was taking shots, whipping round to the body, but he was whipping his own shots in, but he was just refusing to stay, like to give Curio any distance at all. And any time that they did split the distance, he kept that left arm glued to his head, like it was like he was on the phone talking to someone. The arm wasn't moving, and that's clearly because he was having some kind of flashbacks, or at least some kind of concerns based on what happened in the first fight with the punch that he got hit with from that side. So yeah, he just literally just stayed on the chest, and it looked like he was getting outworked and beaten up for sort of the first 6 to 7 rounds. He was still doing his own work in there. I gave him the first round, but after that, it was, to me, it looked like a clean sweep until about round 7 for Adrian Curio. But then that's when the tide just started to turn, and you see Sivenathi Nontshinga, even though he's still sticking to Curio's chest, now he's also starting to create some separation to get those long levers in play and engage from distance before jumping back into the pocket. You even had Curio doing little cheap tactics and like tricks by like grabbing the ropes on the blind side of the referee so that Nontshinga couldn't spin off or turn him on the ropes. There was some dark arts there. It was quite interesting to watch, but to no avail, because by the time it got to like the 8th round, Nontshinga just came on, and all of a sudden you could see that Curio was now breathing really heavy. He wasn't used to the pace. He wasn't used to the kind of punishment. Then those headshots started raining in from the 9th. And to be honest, it could have got called off in the 9th round, but the ref ended up giving him a standing... he gave him a standing count in the 9th, gave him another standing count in the 10th, and then finally Nontshinga just came in with a barrage of punches, and the referee sort of jumped in. But Curio at this point was pretty much done for, out on his feet. Comeback story, obviously it was a 2nd round KO that Nontshinga suffered in the first bout, which I think only took place in November last year. So 3 months later he comes back to avenge the loss, and he stops the guy that stopped him. It was just a really good fight. If you guys ain't seen it, I implore you to go check that one out. Now moving over to the top rank card, I didn't see all of the fights. I saw the Delonte Tiger Johnson bout. There was a middleweight fight that I was watching. I can't remember the name of the guys, but I was looking at them and thinking, are these middleweights or cruiserweights? Because the black guys particularly was just muscle bound. He just looked like he had muscles upon muscles. And I'm like, how did you make 160 pounds? Because you look like you're at least 200 in the ring. Didn't help him. He did end up getting beat by, I think the other guy was Hispanic, but I'm not quite sure. That one was kind of like one of those in between bouts. So I saw that. Then there was, I think it was Cardenas and I'm gonna have to get the name, bear with me, because let's see, the Oshaki Foster card. So on the card you had Brian Chevalier and Andres Cortez. That's it. So yeah, Chevalier was, I think, the house fighter, but Cortez was the guy looking to bring the upset. Now Chevalier was, I think, 21-1 and Cortez was 20-0. He only had 11 KOs and Chevalier's had like 16, so he was looked at as more of the puncher. But I did predict that Cortez would win the fight. Lo and behold, yeah, he got it done in better fashion than I thought, because he actually ended up getting the TKO stoppage, and he got the stoppage in the 4th round as well. So yeah, I don't know kind of where Chevalier goes from there, but ultimately that's that one. Guido Vianello also beat Moses Johnson TKO. I did predict that he would get the stoppage there. Moving on to the main event, because I'm not really going to go through the entire card. You had Oshaki Foster Icewater against Abraham Supernova. Now, I did predict that Oshaki would win this on points. What I didn't predict is, I guess, how I thought it would be sort of a fairly comfortable victory. To a degree it was. I don't really understand the card that Abraham Nova got, but the fight was a lot more competitive, I guess, than maybe I was expecting. I was thinking the only rounds that would be competitive were the ones where Oshaki was maybe just taking a bit of a back step, just having a breather, having a look. So maybe a couple of the earlier ones. But yeah, I mean, it kind of ebbed and flowed for the majority of it. And then ultimately, in the 12th round, Oshaki Foster gets the knockdown, which basically just cements the cards in his favour. Wasn't his greatest performance, but it was still a pretty good performance, and I'm sure that he's got many more good shots to come. So he might want to think about moving up to 135, because there's a lot of good quality work up there. If he maybe thinks that he can get some big money fights there. I mean, you've got Navarrete is basically moving up there at the minute to go and fight for a vacant title. So there's not really any of the big names at 130. Joe Cordina is still there, but he's already said he's kind of looking to move up to 135, because I think he wants a Shakur Stevenson fight, or maybe he might want a Navarrete crack. And he said, I know they said that he was finding it a bit difficult to make the 130 limit now. And obviously he used to be at 135 before dropping to 130, so maybe it might be time for him to move back up as well. So I guess we have to wait and see kind of how that one shapes up. But overall, decent performance for Oshaki Foster. Outside of that, there was a couple bits and pieces that's gone on this week. Something I'm not really going to touch too much on is, the beef or the issues, the drama between Marcellus Wilder and Deontay Wilder. Look, it's not boxing as such, so I haven't really got much time or much thought to spend on it. What I will say is I just hope that however it needs to be addressed, it gets dealt with, and the brothers can end up moving on, whether that's together or separately, but kind of just leaving all of that stuff behind. Like, if you guys know what I'm talking about, cool. If you don't, then yeah, don't worry about it. Samson Lukowicz has come out basically saying that he's been told, or he knows for a fact, that David Benavidez is not in the plans of Canelo Alvarez for the year of 2024. Now, he might quite be right, but, you know, this is the same guy that also said last year that David Benavidez had a signed contract to face David Morrell, and that was last year, January. All now, we're still waiting for that fight to happen. So, yeah, Samson Lukowicz isn't the person you can really trust at the best of times, but based on, I guess, the announcement by Canelo saying his next fight will be against an American, and, you know, I guess we have to wait and see what's going to happen for this year. So we know it won't be Jaime Munguia. As far as Jamal Charlo came out and said that he ain't heard anything from Al Heyman or any of those, so he's not the guy that's supposed to be fighting fighting Canelo Alvarez in May. So yeah, at this point it's all up in the air. I guess we don't know which way it's leaning. But Canelo also said he's going to continue to fight on for another 5 years, so he doesn't look to be done anytime soon. But yeah, the level of competition is going to have to go back up, or he's going to have to start dropping some of those belts at super middle. I feel like he's got the cachet to kind of do what he wants, but, you know, with that also does mean that if you're holding things up, bearing in mind if you're only fighting twice a year and you've got 4 belts, then that means that several people aren't getting opportunities. Now, realistically, back in the day, there was only 1 belt or 2 belts. So, yeah, someone might only get an opportunity once every 3 years. But it's a bit unfair. That being said, though, he is taking care of mandatories in between big fights, you know. The WBC, as far as I'm aware, is the next mandatory that's supposed to be called, but they're not making any rush to call it. We all know who it is. So if there's any reason why that fight isn't happening, it's nothing to do really with Canelo. It's more to do with the sanctioning body that should be, you know, ordering the fight. And then if Canelo decides he wants to drop the belt, David Benavidez will either get elevated or gets to fight for a vacant one, and then we know categorically that Canelo is ducking him. Outside of that, you know, David at this point needs to basically go out and do more, unfortunately. He said, look, at the end of the day, he said that he's not going to just be waiting around for Canelo, but if I remember correctly, his last fight was it October or November? There's no news, or he already knew that he weren't going to be fighting Canelo in May. So if I was him, considering he only had five rounds in the ring, 6 rounds, I would have been looking to try and sort something else now, so that I would be out by March, April. Just keep ticking over, keeping the weight down, just stay in ring shape and ready for when that mandatory gets called. But yeah, other than that, there's not really a huge amount more that I want to sort of have a look at and talk about. More episodes coming during the week, so look out for those. I will actually do a couple because I know I've only done one this week, which was more to address an additional something. But yeah, did a lot of content last week. I did probably standard amount this week, but I want to try and up the levels and up the consistency for next week. So hopefully I can do some more stuff and you guys can like, subscribe and share, and yeah, just enjoy with a friend or whatever. But for all the new people who are watching, thank you very much if you are tuned in. For all my regulars, thank you for staying and sticking by me and sticking with me. And I hope everyone had a good week, and I hope you have a productive week moving forward. So yeah, weekend's out now, and onwards, upwards, bigger and better things. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.